All right, well, we'll get started. Thanks, folks, for coming. This is the Pyramid of Pain. We will jump right in. But first, make sure that you know about the WebEx app, or if you want to join the discussion live after our presentation, we will be here. We both love to talk, so come with your questions, ideas, conversation topics. We would love to chat after this. And also, we have some Snorties available today. If you don't know what Snort is, that's our IPS engine that Cisco Talos Threat Intelligence builds out for us. These are those like hand squishy things. So Blunk will gently chuck one at your head, which will be great.
Can we collaboratively agree that like if I miss while I'm throwing it, you guys aren't going to hold that against me? Yes?
Yes, thumbs up?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
I got a 4-star rating in a previous Cisco Live because I was errantly throwing the Snorty, so just want to make sure.
Can't have that happening. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm Abigail Ojeda. I have been in tech marketing long enough that I live in PowerPoint decks, and then when I'm not doing that, I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, and I'm also an artist, so I've chosen one peaceful activity to do in my free time. Blunk.
Yeah, I am Andrew Blunk. Everybody calls me Blunk. I'm a principal security research engineer with Talos on the threat research side of the house. Fun fact, even though I am a principal research engineer, I also live inside of PowerPoint. Not sure how that works out, but...
Principal PowerPoint engineer. New title.
No.
So these are our topics we're diving into today, but we'd love to talk about anything related to this that pops into your head, so come up to us with questions afterwards if you have the time. We're going to start with AI today. I know you haven't heard anything about AI all week. This is a breaking topic.
Show of
Excited
hands.
to share. No AI. See,
You guys
no AI.
know about
no
this
hands.
AI thing? You guys have heard about this?
Exactly.
Yeah? Okay.
So, we have frontier AI models like Mythos. We have the agentic workforce. We have all these emerging AI topics that are driving some fear and confusion around what's going on with the threat landscape. And the key takeaway I want you to have today in the context of threat hunting is that AI is still a tool. It is a tool we're using both ourselves as defenders and that the threat actors are using, but the shape of an attack still remains the same, right? So we're looking at the kill chain. We're able to see that it's still the same steps of an attack that we've always seen before. However, AI is accelerating each step of that process. So we're all using AI in our jobs every day to make the boring stuff go faster, the repeatable processes automated. Threat actors are doing the exact same thing. So ultimately, what ends up changing is tolerance for time from vulnerability to exploit. So if we are thinking back to 2018 with vulnerabilities like Bluekeep and Equation Editor, we're seeing maybe about 2 months from the time a vulnerability is discovered until it's really being exploited. And as our team member Mark, who's in the back, say hi, Mark, he mentioned, that's enough time to go on vacation. That's time to go relax, come back and deal with the problem. But now if you think back to React to Shell, which happened in December, just like a few weeks in, we discovered that vulnerability, and by the end of December, it had been exploited more than any other vulnerability in the calendar year. So there is no time for vacations anymore, not even really lunch breaks. We're having to be as efficient with our time as much as possible. And that brings us to the Pyramid of Pain. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is a cybersecurity framework coined by David Bianco. And the basic premise is that the more challenging you make it for a threat actor to get into your environment and move through it, the more likely they are to actually just give up and go somewhere else that's easier to attack. And so at the bottom of the pyramid, we have indicators of compromise that are somewhat easy for an attacker to navigate around, right? So if you discover a malicious file and you block the hash for it, a threat actor could easily just get new malware, new hash, right? And move around your attempt to block it. And so while these things are not, they're still important, you have to move up the pyramid in order to have a more proactive defense. So up toward the top, we have tools. If you can find out the tools an attacker is using, you can much more effectively block that threat. And then at the very top, we have TTPs, which is essentially the approach or strategy a threat actor is using to get into your environment. And if you're able to address that behavior, you're much more likely to be successful over the long term in making them give up and say, my time is better spent elsewhere. And that brings us to the value of threat hunting, because we are able to get the type of visibility into the attacker behavior that we need to be more comprehensive in security posture and competence. So we always like to pay attention to when coverage is released, but oftentimes that's the most that we can keep up with, right? There is this period of time, though, when you're dealing with a lot of normal log volume, what seems to be normal indicators, where you may have one or two abnormalities, but at the end of the day, you're not going to take all the time to form a hypothesis, dig into what might be a threat, what might be a problem. So sometimes it feels better just to wait until there is an actual alert to deal with, or until there's coverage. But with threat hunting, we are actually able to dig deeper. We can form hypotheses, we can look for indicators across the telemetry that we have specific to customer environments, and then when we have findings in the threat space and we match them, we can pivot and retro hunt. We can say, what can you do in your environment specifically to make sure that this threat is stopped and does not come back in the future? And that over time continues to increase your confidence in your defense. And that is why we are announcing Cisco Talos Threat Hunting. You may have already heard about it in our security keynotes, but it's here. We're excited, and a big reason that we are believing in it as unique to Cisco is because it's built on the unmatched intelligence from Cisco Talos. So anyone here familiar with Talos, Snort, his shirt, anything? Okay, well, some Snorties are coming your way. Good one, we got a catch, all right. But Talos has 46 million devices across 193 countries that they're constantly getting telemetry from. So this is going to give us a massive amount of context for threat hunting that takes advantage of the Cisco ecosystem, takes advantage of a lot of expert research, and this will feed directly into the program that our customers experience. And this is another place AI comes in for the better. A lot of products talk about how we're using AI, how we have AI, but what does that even mean, right? In this case, we're using AI for what it's good at, pattern recognition, taking a prompt and running with it. Our threat hunters are able to form hypotheses around what they actually need to look for in a potential threat across the global attack surface, and that make sure that even if you have a specific industry you're working in, threats unique to your infrastructure or architecture, the threat hunters are actually looking around and saying, okay, what are we seeing consistent across multiple environments? What are we seeing across the globe? Then they're able to triage that information specific to your telemetry. With this offering, we're going to be able to cover identity, endpoint, and firewall telemetry, which is a really cool way to connect those dots across those tools in ways that you probably don't have the time or resources to do, right? And it's all delivered in cloud control. So the second our threat hunting team finds an issue or a threat, they'll notify you via the cloud control dashboard or via email. So it's going to be a very clear, direct way where you see, here's what we've been seeing, here are the steps you can take to remediate, and over time you'll get monthly and quarterly reporting that allows you to continue to adapt your environment according to what they're seeing. And this unified view is something that's very difficult to get otherwise. The other thing with Cisco Talos Threat Hunting is that it's going to be comprehensive in terms of what you're seeing from your alerts. So you typically are used to seeing, okay, from point to point to point, here's what I need to stop, here's what I should probably block and move along with. But in this case, you're getting context from global, visible years of experience. We have human experts that are trained super well. Blunt knows a lot of them. They're really awesome people. And when you use Cisco Talos Threat Hunting, you're going to get it all in one view, and we're really excited to share that. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the threat protection you also get today with Cisco Secure Firewall. That's a lot of our differentiating threat protection capabilities. I'll run through each one really quick in case you're not familiar. The encrypted visibility engine is really cool because it can see through encrypted traffic without decrypting. What that means is that Eve is using ML to evaluate TLS client hello, and it's also able to look at quick SSH and stun protocols as well, and determine the likelihood that a connection contains malware. And it will block or allow that traffic depending on its findings. And it's very reliable, and it's very cool. Snort ML is Snort IPS. Anyone familiar with Snort now that I said it earlier? Anyone want a little hand squeezer? All right, cool. And this is our ML version of Snort that is trained on the OAuth top 10 vulnerabilities, and it can detect zero-day variants before there's even a signature written. And then finally, advanced logging. That is new to our latest release of firewall software, and it's building out detailed structured logs that you can send directly to Splunk through integration through our Splunk Cloud app. And it's going to be evaluated in Splunk with pre-built detections to see if there are some anomalous issues in those logs that you wouldn't have otherwise caught because those logs were not as detailed before. So this is very similar to Zeek-like logging, if you're familiar with that, but it's native to our firewall now. So if you have firewall, you can turn these things on today, and it's a great complement to threat hunting, which brings together a lot more context from across our products. And with that, Blanc, I'll hand it off to you. You get the special clicker.
Literally. Ooh, I've got the power now.
Yeah.
I have the clicker. So as Abigail mentioned, we're introducing this new expanded version of the Talos threat hunting service. Quick show of hands, how many of you guys already knew that Talos offered a threat hunting service on endpoint? You in the back? Okay, all right. Well, you guys in the back, you guys come up and get Snorties afterwards, okay? Cool. So we are taking that service and we are expanding it. And this is going to be available, August?
For firewall, yeah.
For firewall.
In the next 3 months, it will be across all of these.
Yep.
products.
And so we are expanding that service to now encompass secure firewall customers. So let's talk about threat hunting in action, and with a specific example of Kangtuke. Kangtuke is a threat actor that compromises legitimate WordPress sites, and their scope is to push social engineering lures, click fix, fake captchas, what have you. Purpose is to get onto the environment, get the users to run attacker supply commands, and then to leverage those to trigger multi-stage delivery, right? So they want to get initial access and they want to leverage that. What kind of threat actor does that sound like to you guys? Give you a hint, I used two of the words. Initial access broker. Yes. All right, so as we deal with Kangtuke kind of has a really interesting way of compromising the system and then establishing that multi-stage. So they really like PowerShell. And when I say they like PowerShell, I mean they really, really like PowerShell. Right? So when Kangtuke is operating in your environment, what you wind up seeing is a lot of PowerShell that contains a lot of string data that's encapsulated as the decimal values that represent ASCII characters. And when you take that and you decode it, what you wind up with is more PowerShell. That looks like it's base64 encoded data because it is base64 encoded data. And when you base64 decode that, you get more PowerShell. So we put PowerShell in your PowerShell so you can PowerShell while you PowerShell. At the end result of all of this is there will be a couple of IP addresses and URLs at the tail end of this that they'll use for the purposes of command and control, right? What we identify through the threat hunting is the PowerShell. Right? That's the key that we identify. We derive the network artifacts from the behavior, from the tooling. So even though we are pivoting into telemetry on network artifacts, which is low on the pyramid of pain, the way that we are identifying those network artifacts is through understanding the tooling that they are using. Now remember, where does tooling exist on the pyramid of pain? Not quite the top, but pretty high up, right? You force a threat actor to change their tooling, well, now they got to relearn things. It's more of a pain in the butt than just swapping out a file SHA with some padded some zeros in order to change the SHA. So once we've identified these IP addresses, well, now we can actually start to pivot into telemetry. When you sign up with Cisco Talos Threat Hunting, part of what you're agreeing to do is to emit all of the events generated by your firewall up into Cisco Security Cloud so that Talos can gain visibility into those events and we can execute hunts on those. So we've got some network artifacts that we've identified by looking through Kangtuke PowerShell that we see observed running in an endpoint environment. May not be your endpoint environment. It could be another customer's endpoint environment. We're deriving those network artifacts, and we're pivoting into your telemetry coming up out of your firewall, and we're going to find whether or not it's observed operating in your environment. And once we've done that, then we're going to generate that report, right? Because us finding something has zero utility to you guys, right? We want to be able to report it back to you. So we're going to generate that report, build a summary of what we found, enumerate all those findings, talk about all the observables that we found that's evidence of what we observed, right? And then put together a list of recommended remediations, package that up, and then we will deliver it to you through security and cloud control. So you'll go into security and cloud control. There will be a notifications bar. There's a section for Talos threat hunting. You'll get like a little alert button there, and you'll be able to click it, and you'll gain visibility into exactly what it is that we are asserting. MITRE TTPs, remediations, and the full timeline of what we observed. Note, in this timeline, it includes not just the network observables that came out of the secure firewall telemetry, but there's also some stuff in there from secure endpoint. That's an out-of-date screenshot, so you'll forgive me, but it would include secure endpoint data, and when we expand the service to other Cisco platforms later down the line, it would include those as well. So the point being is that this becomes your one-stop shop for any type of threat hunting data. We will aggregate the signals if you are a threat hunting service customer from an endpoint perspective and a firewall perspective. If we expand this at a later point to another secure product or secure Cisco secure product, then it would show up in this as well.
But product management would probably get mad at us if we promise them things.
I am not going to promise you guys anything.
No promises.
No, because I would like to keep my job.
Good idea. So a little recap, we got to basically focus on increasing our confidence the more that we are experiencing unknowns. So ideally, we would be able to be as proactive as possible with the resources we have today, but I understand security teams, as smart and efficient as they are still often under-resourced and don't have as much time as they'd like. So this is a great way to partner with Cisco, to partner with a great intelligence team like Talos, and we already know some folks here are familiar with this threat hunting program already, so I'd love to hear stories or experiences y'all have had. But as you can see, we're already
good stories and bad stories, because the bad stories tell us where something went off the rails. So we want to know those stories too.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear more about your thoughts on this, because this is a two-way street. It's Cisco Live for a reason. You're here in person, so we want to hear from you.
Yes, don't forget to tip your bartenders. I will use this opportunity to shamelessly plug Talos, because obviously I must. If I don't, then Talos will ritualistically beat me. Can you go to the next one? Mm-hmm. So Talos has a whole bunch of data out there to stay connected. We have our talosintelligence.com, where you can get white papers, articles, other information. The Talos blog. Anytime there's a high-profile, high-visibility threat that we're uncovering, blog always has some information on it. Videos up on YouTube, Talos Tube. The Beers with Talos podcast. Is anybody familiar with this?
Nice.
Yeah? All right. So imagine a bunch of security practitioners drinking beer and talking about, well, what were the shenanigans that happened in the security space this week? A lot of times it's pretty serious stuff. A lot of times it's, oh man, did you hear about the ridiculous thing that happened this week? It's a really fun podcast to listen to. Social media at Talos Security, and our Threat Source newsletters.
Awesome. And then ideally you would stop by our booth. I know Cisco Live is wrapping up, so you may not have a chance, but we do have a demo all the way over in the AI Ready Data Center section. Some of you have already been by, but there's always more to do with Cisco Live right until the end, so stay tuned. But that's pretty much.
Make sure that you guys do the session surveys as well. The surveys are super, super important for us as presenters. Obviously, we would like you guys to give us 5 stars. But if you're not going to give us 5 stars, the best thing that we can ask you for is to give us feedback, right? If we don't know what we can do to improve it, then we can never improve the presentation, right? So if you're not going to give us 5 stars, the only thing that we ask for is give us some feedback as to specifically what you would have liked. fair warning, we do not control the thermostat in here, so please do not complain about the temperature in here. I do not control that, much to my chagrin.
It's too much power for you.
Yeah, I've already got way too much.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, if you feel you can project your voice, we'll do our best to hear your questions and answer them.
Oh, come on, guys. I got to get feedback. Someone. I see smiling. I know I got a couple of you interested in this.
Go for it.
Yes. How do customers actually add this capability? So on Firewall, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that if you sign up for the Premier tier for the license?
Yeah, so it'll be different depending on the product that you're using. But for Firewall specifically, it's an additional license. But it's usually always an additional license, and it's really easy to sign up. So, but yeah, good point.
All the event data that propagates up from the devices gets associated with your tenant, and that's how Talos is able to walk and correlate the data across, firewall data versus endpoint data, as we basically use the common tenant ID. Yep.
Yeah, Niall.
I can't hear. I'm just going to go off the stage. Okay, so the question is, how can you augment this with threat intelligence coming out of a different provider? So insofar as threat hunting is concerned, the service, you cannot do that, right? So Talos leverages the intelligence that we have visibility into, which includes all the telemetry coming up out of you guys as customers. But we also consume third-party intelligence data ourselves. So anything that we are aware of, we're going to be using that as part of the hunts. However, there is not a mechanism for you, an individual customer, to specifically provide us with some intelligence feed for us to use as part of the hunt. That is not supported. Does that answer your question?
Close, but not quite.
Oh, no, there's another 4-star for me. Yeah. Is there a minimum version of FTD in order to enable this?
That's a great question. I need to get back to you on that because I think it would be helpful if, obviously you're upgraded as high as possible. But because it's not included as part of a software release, I'm pretty sure multiple.
Kinda. So
yeah.
You're going to be on a minimum version for security and cloud control because that's where the interface is built into it. But security and cloud control can orchestrate FTDs down to a certain version. So I'm not aware of anything specific, but that's a good question. We should probably get an authoritative answer.
Thanks for asking it. Go for it. Yes.
As Cisco integrates more into Cisco Cloud Control, you guys will be able to run threat hunts against those other tools as well?
Great point. So to reiterate, you mentioned we're correlating across identity, endpoint, and firewall, but you're curious that with cloud control, can we continue to expand this across more product offerings? So that's where we get to promises that product management will be very upset if we commit to anything. However, you're thinking along the right lines, right? As long as you're sending telemetry to cloud control, that makes you ready, set, go when we have the next product that we integrate into an offering like this. So you're thinking like we are. I like it.
Any other questions? No?
Any thoughts, like just comments, ideas? What?
I didn't hear. Free for what?
Free for 12 months.
Free for 12 months. Oh, man. Well, we have. Once you think of the threat researchers, the threat researchers need to be fed too. I mean, we can't just subsist them on, a diet of nothing but packet analysis. Won't you please think of the threat researchers?
Though after meeting them, you might think that's all they eat. So.
That is true. That is mostly what they subsist off of. That and copious amounts of scotch.
How many Snorties do we have left?
Yes.
manner for Talos to make firepower better, something like an IDS better?
I missed the first part of the question. So,
Is cloud control required
is cloud control required?
in order to gain the benefits of Talos?
Yes. Well, so the question is cloud control required in order to gain the benefits of Talos? From a threat hunting perspective, the answer is yes. From a Talos intelligence perspective, if you're a secure firewall customer, then you have the capability to leverage Talos delivered intelligence in the form of reputation, categorization data, file reputation, the IPS services, our snort rules, clam SIGs, malware protections, right? Talos intelligence, we don't sell it separate and distinct from a product offering. Everything that Talos offers is through the lens of a specific integration with a specific Cisco product. Does that answer your question?
I will add to that. So,
do you have a Snorty already?
The question is trending around, is Talos in cloud control? How does using cloud control elevate Talos and the exchange between those two? Cloud control helps you have a more unified security view of all your threat protection capabilities. And Talos is in all of our security products, so you're able to then say, I have a better view of what Talos is giving me and the value Talos is giving me by looking at one place. So it does come hand in hand, and you're going to get the advantage of that regardless of which security product you're using.
Good questions.
We got 2 left?
Yeah.
Snorties?
Oh, I have many Snorties left. So
We have to
whoever
make it
does
an
not have a
exclusive offer.
Snorty, come meet me outside.
Thanks for stopping by.
Any other questions? Yeah. All right, so the question is, what is the difference between Talos and STO, the Security and Trust or Operations Group? So Talos is responsible for monitoring the threat landscape, understanding how threat actors are operating, understanding how vulnerabilities are being exploited, and to craft protective capabilities and to drive those capabilities into the product teams so that we can protect our customers. STO, there are elements of STO that have a very similar mandate. So like PSIRT is a good example, the Product Security Incident Response Team. Anytime that there's a vulnerability in a Cisco provided equipment, you report it to PSIRT, and PSIRT kind of handles all of the team wrangling internal to get the vulnerability addressed. ASIG is another one. They do all of the pen testing of Cisco equipment. We consider those sister organizations. They are populated with the same type of people that populate Talos, but we have different mandates. Yeah. You already have a Snorty, so you do not get a second
Can't
one.
be too greedy.
Yeah.
Gotta share.
Well, we got a couple of minutes left. Anything else? No? Anything that you guys would like to see in a threat hunting service that we didn't cover? You feel like it's egregiously missing? Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. Cool, I guess that means we're perfect.
That's us.
All right, well, I guess we'll call it at that. If you guys would like Snorties or stickers, we'll have them outside of this little boundary area.
Yeah, and thank you all for coming. I think this is the last presentation on this stage on the last day of Cisco Live. So we were like, maybe we'll have 2 people.
Yeah, thank you for coming to this instead of going to lunch.
Yeah. So appreciate it.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.